College athletes are being taken advantage of. From the outside, it may seem like scholarship athletes live cushy and pampered lives, but in reality, a large number cannot even afford enough food to keep from going hungry. College athletics is a multi-billion-dollar industry these days, and is my personal favorite of professional leagues in some sports like football due to the atmosphere colleges provide. Unfortunately, this system takes advantage of the athletes we all love to watch. I first became interested in this issue while playing the NCAA football line of video games made by EA Sports. I was troubled to learn that these athletes are not paid for their name, image, and likeness used in the game, despite it quite obviously being them. After realizing this, I began to investigate what was being done about fairly compensating players for their name, image, and likeness. As I'm sure all of you will agree, I feel these players deserve to be paid and not be taken advantage of. Today we will cover the finances of college sports and show that fairly paying players is not only what should be done, but also quite feasible. Let's begin. To understand the inequality of college athletics, let's look at the money the NCAA draws in and what student athletes get in return. As you'll see, athletes get 0%, the NCAA gets 100%, which is then distributed to their colleges, but that's for another discussion. This discussion also continues with the NCAA's argument that they should not pay players because they must maintain the sacredness of amateurism. Well, there's nothing amateur about the amount of money the NCAA draws in off these players' efforts. According to the Lawyer Undergraduate Journal of the Arts, in 2010, the NCAA signed a joint contract with CBS and Turner Sports for $10.8 billion over 14 years. Being an amateur means one participates in the sports for the love of the game, not as a means of supporting themselves. Well, $10.8 billion, even over 14 years, is not amateur. Worse yet, this money is made off of unpaid amateurs. The other side of this issue is how little student athletes actually benefit from their time at school. Firstly, they do not have nearly enough time to each week to receive a meaningful education because of their sports commitments. In a lawsuit filed by Northwestern football team when they attempted to become student employees and unionize, the FIU Law Review states, specifically, the regional board found that during training camp, players had itineraries set forth hour by hour what football-related activities they would partake in. These ranged from as early as 5:45 a.m. to 10:30 p.m., and they devoted up to 60 hours a week to football activities. With this being an everyday occurrence, student athletes cannot truly focus on their studies. Additionally, while they may pass their classes, they're not really gaining the knowledge they need to get good paying jobs after school. That is to say, they're more interested in learning playbooks than textbooks. Second, student athletes may receive tuition, room, and board, but many can still not afford enough food to get adequate nutrition. While some critics may argue that this is more than fair compensation, allow me to introduce Shabazz Napier, just one case out of many thousands nationally. In an article from the Seattle Journal for Social Justice, in an interview with UConn basketball's Shabazz Napier, quote, "Sometimes there are hungry nights where I'm not able to eat. Sometimes money is needed, but we don't have enough money to buy food," end quote. Student athletes are not allowed to receive any compensation and do not have time to work jobs to supplement their income. So occurrences like this are pretty common. However, how are you supposed to perform at your highest level when you go to bed hungry? Now that we've covered some of the injustices in the current NCAA situation, what can we do about it? The answer to this problem is allowing college athletes to profit from their NIL property. While the time commitment athletes will undertake will not change, and they will still not gain the education they should from 4 years in college, allowing them to profit off their NIL assets would compensate them fairly for their time. Take, for example, Alabama quarterback Bryce Young. The true sophomore has played in only one game his entire Alabama football career, but according to Alabama head coach Nick Saban, he has pulled in almost 7 figures in sponsorship deals just in the month of July 2021. Given that student athletes choose colleges solely for their sports program they're going to participate in, and not the academics, I think that 7 figures is more than fair compensation. Sure, their education will still be non-existent, but education is really about gaining valuable skills to get you a good paying job and support yourself later in life, something Mr. Young has already done. As such, his NIL and student income makes his case a benchmark that should be observed and used as a guide for the rest of the NCAA. So what can you do to help? Well, with the legalization of NIL compensation, the NCAA can no longer prohibit college athletes from receiving payments for their name, image, and likeness. Contact your school's athletic director or alumni association and lobby them to change their policy if they still forbid compensation to players. Or contact your state legislature if the state still outlaws it. If all is legal, support your local college athletes however you wish. I can guarantee they'll be very thankful. So now that we've seen what can be done to correct the problem, let's recap. As we've seen, the NCAA makes billions of dollars off of unpaid athletes. These athletes may receive scholarships and some room and board, but this is not enough, and many go to bed hungry. They also do not have enough time to get a proper education like they should. To solve this, we must allow colleges to compensate their players their NIL property. With our help, maybe one day college athletes will be able to support themselves.